It's 6 o'clock, call the meeting to order. So, good all, please rise. For invocation today, we have a good friend, Mark Campbell from the Annual Baptist Church to do the invocation. We appreciate you, Mark.
Let's pray. Dear sovereign Lord, we come to you in prayer this evening knowing this earth is yours and the fullness of it. We know that you tell us in your word that there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. I pray tonight, Lord, that the power that you have ordained in Magoffin County will be for the good of the people of the county. Proverbs 29:2 tells us, when the righteous rule, the people rejoice, but when the wicked rule, the people mourn. I pray tonight for those who rule in our county. I pray for our leaders that they will lead in righteousness so the people of Magoffin County may rejoice. Lord, I thank you for each of these leaders. I thank you that you have given them a heart of service. I thank you, Lord, that you have placed in this heart of service a desire to work for the citizens of our community. I pray, Lord, that these public servants would understand their calling is from you. I pray they understand they will answer you for the way they lead our community. I pray, Lord, they would recognize that their labor is not in vain. I pray they would understand there is no greater calling than to give yourself for the benefit of another. Lord, I pray tonight that you would bless these proceedings with a spirit of unity. I pray, Lord, that each of those who make decisions for our county will abide by the words of Paul in Philippians 2:4. Look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. I pray that the private agendas would be restrained. I pray that every decision would be in the best interest of all. May the decisions made tonight be for the benefit of the citizens of Magoffin County. I pray, Lord, that those in power will understand they are under your authority. I pray they will make decisions in the fear of God, and I pray that every decision will be made to bring glory and honor to you. Thank you again for these public servants. I pray your blessings will be upon them, but we thank you most of all for the knowledge of your sovereignty over the affairs of men and the gift of eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. In the name of Jesus I pray. Amen.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, call the roll.
Bud Wyman.
Here.
Darrell Harris. Here. Bill Baxter. Here. Bill Bailey.
Here.
Rick Allen.
Here.
Josephine Baker. Here.
All right, is there anyone that would like to speak to this report tonight, other than I know I got some representatives from Lifeguard? If you want to speak, I ask you to come please sign up. All right. Next item is to consider approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Is there any changes or corrections to the minutes?
I didn't see none. I'll make the motion to approve it.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made second. Any further discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Before we go into the business section, I would like for us to take a moment of silence. We've lost two advocates for our community within the past month, with Randall Reisner, who was instrumental in getting the Battlefield Park at Half Mountain done, and then we've lost Henry Joseph. In the coming months, we will be doing resolutions and dedications in honor of those men. I can't say enough about them, and they were, and everybody knows that they were responsible for a lot of things, and they both were. I think, as Mark said, they had a heart of service, and that's what they believed in, and they're going to be greatly missed. There's going to be some big shoes to fill. So if you would, let's take a moment of silence. Thank you. All right, on the financial business, is there any reason we shouldn't pay the bill? Hearing none, bills will be paid. Next item is fund transfer with treasurer claim fund transfer.
We need to transfer from the general fund to the jail fund $40,000. And that's the only transfer we need to do this month.
There a motion on transfer.
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Motion made, is there a second?
One second.
Motion made, second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Treasurer's report. Is there any questions on the treasurer's report? I think it's the page before the fund transfer. Hearing none, we move on. Departmental reports. Mr. Howard.
Okay, I got a few reports here. On the community center, we just removed the chain link fence outside the big sandy area. And doing that, it's got a metal roof on it. It's got, that's the side of the community center that's shaded, and it's caused a little bit of icing problem, so we have to put up a short gutter there to handle that problem. So we got to get that completed there. But it looks really good with that chain link fence on. It won't look cold a little bit. 911, of course, bids for our county phone system will be opening tonight. These bids here, we're still waiting on approval for the generator. We're proceeding on that. Battlefield Park, the architectural designs have been approved, so that's good. Bidding process will begin next week for construction of the new restroom facilities. On bridges, Laurel Branch, White Oak Bridge replacements. Construction of the aluminum box cover on Laurel Branch has been completed and open to traffic. I don't know if anybody's been over there and across it. You need to go look at it. Construction of the box cover on White Oak is in progress. I think probably tomorrow, if the weather permits, they'll have it together, and then hopefully completed within the next week if weather allows. So those are two bridge replacements that were really needed. Fire child funeral. Everybody heard about our veteran coming home? The fire child? Okay. He'll be arriving at the Bluegrass Airport on Thursday, November 21st at 8:29 p.m. And there'll be a small ceremony there. And then he will be escorted to the Magoffin Funeral Home. Now there's going to be a tribute set up by our fire departments at the Gifford exit. It'll be approximately 9:30 to 10. And there'll be the flags hanging from the flag trucks and the fire trucks there and departments there. Robert's helped me on that. The services will be held on Saturday, November 23rd at the funeral home at 1 p.m. They would like to attend. Burial is at the Firechild Cemetery on Max Ford, which is on Firechild Road. Now there's going to be a second tribute set up in town in the town of Sayersville as the funeral procession travels through Sayersville. So that should be really nice. So it'll probably be 1:30, 2 o'clock after the funeral. It's going how long the funeral lasts. And then some good news, last year's FEMA projects have all been completed. So we're completed with that, and we'll be turning those in for reimbursement soon, as soon as we get those. So, any questions on anything?
Good job.
Okay.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harold. Do you have anything? Other than we did give notice that we got an award for a grant that's 50/50 match, $30,000. And we waited the final paperwork on that to get a vehicle for the EMS director. Ashley, you have anything? All right. Next thing we'll be doing is our committee reports. From our Veterans Committee, we've got 3 resolutions that we'll be doing tonight honoring veterans. The first one will be honoring PFC Ray Fairchild. You may have seen in the media reports, he was identified back this summer as from the unknown, being buried in Hawaii, what they call the Punch Bowl, 69 years ago. And like I said, we'll be bringing him home on Thursday, and we'll be having the funeral on Saturday. And we will be dedicating the road in his honor, but we'll be doing that at a later date. The family members that are still with us didn't want to merge these two things together, and totally understand that and agree with that. But we'll be doing the resolution tonight. We also have one for Corporal Paul Harrison Cordell, naming a section of Kentucky 7 after him and his service. And then we have a resolution honoring PFC Blaine Minix, naming 1635, a section of that after him. We've got Vince Minix here, who serves on the committee and is a veteran too. He's going to read the resolutions for us.
Whereas Magoffin County Fiscal Court wishes to recognize the contributions and sacrifices made by Private First Class Ray Palmer Fairchild to his country. And to whereas Ray Palmer Fairchild was born November 2nd, 1929 in Magoffin County to John Herschel Fairchild and Allie Prater. Whereas PFC Ray Fairchild enlisted in the United States Marine Corps in 1948 in Nashville, Kentucky. He completed his basic training in Parris Island, South Carolina. PFC Fairchild was then sent to San Francisco, California, and transferred to Osaka, Japan, where he was sent to North Korea in late 1950. PFC Fairchild was a member of Company D, 2nd Battalion, 7th Marine Regiment, 1st Marine Division. After fighting through harsh battles with the Chinese and South Korean armies, PFC Fairchild was killed in action on November 27, 1950, near the town of Udomani, west of the Chosun Reservoir, near North Korea. PFC Fairchild received a Purple Heart. His remains could not be recovered immediately after the war. And whereas during Operation Glory in 1954, North Korea and the United States command exchanged remains of casualties. One set of the remains assigned as unknown as X13474 could not be identified and were subsequently buried in the National Memorial Cemetery of Pacific in Honolulu, Hawaii. On May 11, 2012, the remains were disinterred and were sent to a laboratory to be identified through extensive dental and anthropological analysis. And whereas PFC Fairchild name is recorded on the corpse of missing in the National Memorial Cemetery Pacific in Honolulu with other missing soldiers from the Korean War. A rosette will be placed next to the name to indicate that he has been accounted for. And whereas Private First Class Ray Fairchild will be returned home to be buried with full military rites on November 23, 2019 in the Fairchild Family Cemetery at Mashford, Magoffin County, Kentucky. He will now rest in peaceful sleep in the hands of the Supreme Commander. And now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that Fairchild Road, County Road 1024, starting at mile point 0 and ending at mile point 782, be forever known as PFC Ray Palmer Fairchild Memorial Road.
Let's do a motion on that. I entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll make the motion.
Motion been made, there's a second.
I'll second.
Motion been made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries.
The next one will be, whereas Magoffin County Fiscal Court wishes to recognize the contribution and sacrifices made by Corporal Paul Harrison Cordell to his country. And to whereas Paul Harrison Cordell was born December 1st, 1921, Magoffin County. Whereas Corporal Paul Harrison Cordell enlisted in the United States Army January 19, 1943, and completed his basic training at Fort Edwards, Massachusetts, Camp Davis, North Carolina, and Camp Eustis, Virginia. After completing his training, Corporal Cordell embarked with his battalion to enter the European theater in France. He served in the 465th Anti-Aircraft and Artillery WMG Battalion. His company commander considered him one of the most valuable men. Corporal Harrison Cordell was wounded in action during an aggressive battle in France to liberate Europe in World War II. He was transferred to a veterans hospital where he died of his wounds 3 days later. Corporal Paul Harrison Cordell was a member of the greatest generation that stepped up to defend the way of life and freedom and democracy for the United States and the world of the communist aggression. He gave his life so that the country could remain free. And whereas the family of Corporal Cordell received a letter from the chaplain who wrote that he knew Corporal Cordell well and that he was one of his most faithful members of the church services. The chaplain also wrote that he felt Corporal Paul Harrison Cordell trusted in God and was fully prepared to go. And whereas Corporal Paul Harrison Cordell was awarded the Purple Heart along with several other medals for his wounds received in action, and for his heroic actions that resulted in his death on October 20th, 1944. Whereas Corporal Paul Harrison Cordell never made it back to Magoffin County to see his family and friends. He is resting at the Bluegrass Cemetery in Sayersville, Kentucky, in peaceful sleep at the hands of the Supreme Commander. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that from mile point 19.048 at the junction of Route 7 and Kentucky 867 on Oakley Road to point 19.262 Stanford Cemetery Road and County Road 1163B7 be forever known as Corporal Paul Harrison Cordell Memorial Road.
I entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll make a motion.
Motion been made, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion been made and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no, motion carries.
Whereas Magoffin County Fiscal Court wishes to recognize the contributions and the ultimate sacrifice made by Private First Class Blaine Minix, and whereas PFC Blaine Minix was born on February 18, 1920 to McKinley Minix and Peggy Jackson Minix of Magoffin County, and where PFC Blaine Minix entered the United States Army October 16, 1943 and completed basic training at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and his infantry training at Fort Polk, Louisiana. And whereas Private First Class Blaine Minix arrived in England on February 22nd, 1944 and trained until June of that year with the 30th Infantry Division. His division landed on Omaha Beach June 15th, 1944, 9 days after Operation Overlord, the Battle of Normandy, began. Whereas PFC Minix was involved in many battles en route to St. Lo, France, but was killed in action by a sniper's bullet at one of the battles. And whereas PFC Minix received several medals for his effort to defeat the Nazi war machine, some of the medals include the Combat Infantry Badge, Purple Heart, and Good Conduct Badge. Now therefore it is hereby resolved that at mile point 4.29, where PFC Blaine Minix is laid to rest at the Jackson Cemetery, to mile point 5.665 on Route 1635, be forever known as PFC Blaine Minix Memorial Road.
I entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll make the motion.
Motion made, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and second, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no, motion carries. All right, on these, again, thank you, I appreciate you, Nancy. We've had a lot of work done by our Veterans Recognition Committee, and they're still doing a lot of work. These three, we'll have the signs up in the coming weeks and months, and there's a lot more to come. Just by a small search on military records, there's at least 28 just in the Army alone that were killed in action during World War II from Magoffin County. So we're still trying to identify those. We're still trying to get all the information that we can, so we have accurate information, and we want to know about all the medals and all the things that they've done so that we can recognize those guys for allowing us to be here today. All right, new business. Consider approving awarding bids. In your packet, we opened up bids on the structural steel, and there should be a tabulation in there. We had 2 bidders, King Creek Drilling and Progress Rail Services Corp. And based on the tabulations, Progress Rail Services Corp will be the recommendation. They have the lowest price per foot. For fully load delivered, King Creek was $12 a foot and Progress Rail was $8.43. For a half load, it was $12.50 for King Creek and $9.41 for Progress. For less than 50 feet, it was $14 a foot for King Creek and $11.37 for Progress. And any quantity that we would pick up was $11.50 at King Creek, and it was $7.45 for Progress Rail. there any questions on that? I entertain a motion to approve the structural steel bid.
I'll make the motion.
Motion made, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and second, any discussion, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no, motion carries. All right, the next one is the bids on our, 911 phone system and the CAD. These were advertised through our Big Sandy ad, and they have them to be opened here. Typically, we like to do a public opening separate so we can have time to tabulate it, but, you go one. You go one. Zero today. Put that knife there. You say seal bid, they seal on it.
How long do we have?
That should be a copy for everybody else. Yeah, that's what it is, like, copies. Got one down there? First one that I'm looking at is in digital. And it's, I guess, been for the 911 system. Scott, would you come up here, you and Keeman, and take a look at these and tell us what these, based on your information, understand? Yeah, we can take a look at those and see look at the specs, and we'll move on. We'll come back to that. That's why I like to open one for a separate day. We'll let them, we'll move on to the, you don't look if you want. The next item on the agenda is to receive the Magoffin County Library financial statements and annual report. This is just to receive, it's not to approve. You got anybody here, Melanie here? Let's see. Take a minute to look at that. Any questions or issues with the library report? If not, I entertain a motion to receive the Magoffin County Library financial statements and annual report.
I'll make the motion to proceed.
Motion been made, is there a second?
Yes, second.
Motion made and second, any discussion? And then all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those no, motion carries. All right, while we're still looking at that, we have a road list that's put in your packet also. This is an ongoing process. So this is a very fluid document. And basically what we have found is that the state website that has road distances on it varies significantly from a road list that was generated in 2000. We've done an extensive search of the minutes from that point forward, and we didn't see anywhere that we could find that addressed the variances. We've got some roads that are on the state map that show they're 0.6 miles, and then you drive up and you see that it's blacktop for 2 miles. We know that's all our roads. So what we've done is we've purchased what's called digital measuring instruments that go inside a vehicle. They triangulate satellites, and they're accurate to within so many feet. And we've been going to those roads and trying to identify those variances and make sure that we get those numbers right. What we found more times than not is that the 2000 list is accurate, and that's what you have here is the 2000 list, and we've made adjustments for those that may need to be adjusted and they're not. That may be a 10 or 2 from the 2000 list. During that search, we also found that there was several roads in the minutes that have been adopted into the road system, but they wasn't listed on any road list. So we went and measured those roads. How many we have actually? 12, 14?
I've done a dozen so far.
Over a dozen so far that we've identified in the minutes that we went and measured and naming, and we got to go through that process of getting them added to the state list. So the state recognizes those roads and distances, because we do get some of our funding based upon the length of roads that we have. So what we're doing is, this is because we got over 900 roads. I mean, that's a significant number of roads, and they stretch 300 miles, plus or minus. So we're trying to make sure that we get the distances as accurate as we can, because when I first came in, we're going by the state map, and it says it's 0.1 mile, but the road literally goes a mile. I gotta have the legal method to work on it. But when we found this 2000 list, we knew that whenever they done that state, drawed it out on that computer system, I don't know why it's that way, but we gotta get it accurate. So that's what we're doing here. We'll be bringing this same list back every meeting as we get adjustments, but we gotta have something to operate on now. So we're gonna operate based on this if it's approved, and next month we'll have more roads to adjust as we get them more accurate. Like I said, we found that the 2000 list represents the true distance of the road a lot more than what was done. A lot of this was done on computer. They went and looked at the roads and then come back and brought it out. And we've got some of them that literally, the roads over here and on the map in real life, and you look on the map and it's over here going up a holler through the creek or somewhere like that. So we got to get all that stuff straightened out. So there's a lot to be done, but we're making a lot of progress. It's just like I said, we got 900 roads, and it takes a long time to drive up and down. So, any questions or anything on these road maps, on the road list? I said, this is a fluid document. We'll be working on it probably for the next 6 to 8 months. Hopefully we'll have it done by then. All right, I entertain one.
You need any help from me, Mr. Treasurer, be sure to let me know. I've been here since 2000, I've got it.
Yeah, you better, bro. All right, I entertain a motion to approve the county road list and distances. Motion been made, is there a second? Motion made and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. All right, if we look through it. You can, or Scott can. Scott, go ahead, Scott.
Basically, this is one bid apiece for each of the bids that we advertised out. One for the phone system. We received a bid from a company called Digital. We received one bid for the CAD mapping solution and the CAD itself from a company called GeoConnect. So we received one bid for each advertised bid. So those are the two companies that bid one for each bid. So they're separate companies for different things, but they put a bid out for the products that we advertised. If you will look on the, I don't know if you can see it on your paper there, it's on page 19 on the individual. It gives us the price quote for them. That price listed is a total one-time cost of $63,766.88 with reoccurring annual costs for maintenance and database and server maintenance and stuff like that of $10,534 a year. So that's what the reoccurring will be every year. And then on the GeoConnects for the CAD on page 3. We've got two prices listed here. It's like a bundled solution, a one-and-all solution. The price on page 3 of the GeoConnect says $87,970.74. That's for the CAD system and the map viewer. And then on page, I think it's just a second. On page 2, gives us the, section of it for the actually mapping solution that enables us to keep our 911 addresses, published to the CAD system, so that's 18,794.36. That is all, that's all together in the same solution in the CAD here. So that's what your price is, just by looking through that, it looks like, they're making the requirements we're asking for, so that's good to me.
All right, do we know if this meets the amount of the grant or within the budgeted amounts?
Yeah, the best that we can calculate on that, it does fall within that. We've got, I think the grant total was, 271,000 initially, plus, get a break some. Those numbers fall within that. In addition to that, the grant was provided for a 911 radio console system, which we're looking at a company and on contract price, so we don't have to bid it out.
Price contract.
Yeah, price contract. So, the best we can take away right now, me and Keith, there, it all should fall within the budgetary package of the grant.
And will we be sending this to Big Sandy Ag for their review to make sure that it meets all the specs, or how we do, who's gonna?
They already had the specs from stock.
I know we have, but we just need to make sure that the bid package, so we can send it to the ad just to verify. I think we need to put that in there as part of the motion.
We'll be having a meeting probably next week on that.
Yeah.
All of us together discuss that too.
All right, so for the phone system is in digital?
Yes.
Okay, I entertain a motion to approve in digital bid, pending review by the Big Sandy Ag, personnel that put this together. And with that, it's within budgetary limits that is for the 911 call system.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion been made, is second.
Second.
Motion made and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. No, motion carries. All right, and this is for the CAD system?
Yes.
Computer aided assistant. I'd entertain a motion pending review, for Geo Connects, for the 911 CAD system. Motion second, any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those no, motion carries. All right, have I missed anything on the new business? I don't think so. We got any old business to discuss?
Bridge. Still haven't seen anybody.
I know, and I've actually talked to some people in Frankfurt, at the CACO conference about that, and they're supposed to get back with me still. So, they called and I announced that, 5 months ago? They were coming to do that, accelerated bridge construction. And then when I talked to some of them people at Bridge in Kentucky, they didn't really know what that was. So I'm wondering if, I don't know, I'm waiting on asking myself. So hopefully they'll get to it. That is still on the list to be done in 2019, but the date is clicking away. All right, we'll move on to communications. First one, Judge Executive. The first thing that I want to do is we have, as you know, we've got the 3-day temporary workers, part-time workers that are offered me to hire. I've already hired and just to have it ratified. We have Brian Pennington, Jay Howard, Dwayne Estep, and Dwayne Montgomery. And those are for 3 days a week up to $10 an hour. And I'd make that in form of motion.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. We've had Jerry Rao on as a temporary worker for several months cutting grass, and he's doing an excellent job. And we need to keep him on full time. So I make a motion that we hire Jerry Rao at the full time at $12 an hour.
I'll second it. Go ahead.
Well, you make the motion second. Motion been made, you second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Other than that, I don't have anything for my comments. Matter.
Potholes. We're gonna have a lot of potholes on different roads. I don't know potholes. Maybe these guys here can take care of that.
Right, and we've actually went through, 460 ton of coal patch already. And I spoke to the vendor that sold that, and they have a mixture that's called the winter blend. I gotta see what the pricing is, and I wanna call some county judges that used it to make sure that it's, that stuff we got for this summer was outstanding. I think it's worked well. But that in the winter time is not as consistent. You can't hardly use it. You gotta have one that's got a different oil in it so you can stir it up and put it in the pothole. So we'll be finding out about that in the coming months. I talked to that guy down at the Caco conference last week too, so he's supposed to be getting that.
On gravel roads, can't we put some kind of milling or something in there, a dense grade or something before you gravel a road? Because you gravel.
Well, and I think that's what a lot of times that's what we do. Is we fill the potholes up with the dense grade and then gravel them. But that's still gonna bust out. This spring we got a total patcher, I think it's called, and it's we bought it at the surplus auction. And basically what it does is you go out and it's a chip seal type thing. You go out and you spray this oil is basically what it is. It's an adhesive, and then once you spray that on there, then you dump either a 57 or 11s or whatever on it. It's chip seal, and once you do that to a certain extent, it makes that road the same as blacktop, and it allows it to be eligible for resurfacing money. So we'll be able, once we get this machine, we'll probably need to get it take it to the company and let them refurbish it some. But once we do that, we'll be able to start making all of our gravel roads as we can a lot more economically. We'll be able to start making them have a harder, more durable surface. There's also another thing we'll be looking at, and Carter County's been doing it recently, is a stuff called clay-crete. And basically what this is a chemical that adheres to clay and it essentially stops all moisture and water from mixing in with the clay. And once you do that, it makes that road just like concrete. And the county judge from Carter County had a video showing the process and how they've been doing it. And they had information there from other places been using it. And some of them, the roads have been essentially maintenance free for 10, 15, 20 years. They use it a lot in the mining industry where they'll make the roads down into gravel quarries and whatever, and they put this chemical on there. And they said the roads before they put it on there, they would grade them 60 to 90 times a year. Once they put that on there, they do 6 to 9 times a year. So there's a lot of things that we're looking at. We're in the latter part of the calendar year, but we're starting with the bad season where the roads are going to get soft, and we just got to try to address it the best we can. But starting next spring, in addition to the cold patching and the other thing, we're going to start doing some chip sealing and look at and maybe test a road or two with this clay-crete. You have to rent the equipment. You can't afford to buy it. They got a thing called a reconditioner. It costs $250,000. We ain't gonna buy that. But we might be able to rent one. I think that's what Carter County does. But it's going to be addressed. It's just it's a piece of the puzzle. 900 roads. It'll take a while to get to them all, but we're going to get to them.
Yeah, I thank our county employees for what they do. Thank both of you guys for what they do. Also, I'd like to thank the city for what they do. They got them prisoners out and cutting these weeds. And just, they really work hard, and you see them out all the time. 6 days a week they're out there doing it. And we appreciate them and just want to throw a shout out to them. Appreciate the people. Indeed. Thanks for getting him.
The warden.
The warden.
You got anything, Darryl?
No.
You got anything, Darryl? All right. The next item is business from the floor and public comment. And been no secret, we've had some issues with the ambulance service. Met with them a couple of times. And we have some representatives here who are going to try to update us on where we stand and how they're going to be addressing the issue. And hopefully we can have get some news here that things are on the upswing and that things are looking up for service in our community. So whoever from you all want to come up, we'll give the floor is yours.
Good evening. My name is Bert Absher. I'm Director of Operations for Lifeguard East Kentucky, and we are glad to be here. We tour our stewards of the court and stewards of the citizens of Magoffin County. I want to make that very evident that as the judge and I talked, even as late as this morning, the citizens of Magoffin County are just as important to us as anybody we serve in Eastern Kentucky. And the failure on our part to not communicate that well is ours. And we have had some deficiencies. We're going to be transparent, and we're addressing those every day. Our response times are not what they should have been. We've had a major staffing issue that really hit us hard after the transition, and we enacted some things that we hoped would curb that, and it didn't curb it as fast as we would, so we got on a proactive end of that, and we're going to talk about some of the things that we've done to improve that. We started working with Scott. We met with Scott the first time a few weeks back, and we're starting to share some data. He sent me some data today that we could compare to our data and see where some of our failures are, and I'm excited to get back and really dive into some of that with him. But the expectation that the county and its citizens have to have adequate 911 coverage is valid. And we haven't met that need, otherwise you wouldn't have concerns. So I want to make a commitment to change that, to work with the 911 center, to develop our staffing a little bit better and talk to you about some of the policies that we've changed. The first thing to talk about is why Magoffin County doesn't have its own CON and how we got to be here, because it's something we discussed this morning. Another service that was here many years ago just closed up shop. When they closed up shop, that CON dissolved. It just went away. That's how it happens. When it's not covered, it goes away. So there was a license attached to something that Pikeville Methodist Hospital used to have that covered Magoffin County, and we got an emergency CON through Transtar to provide 911 service here. It doesn't mean you have a second-rate license. It doesn't mean that you have second-class coverage. We're obligated to cover Magoffin County just like we are any other. So things that we dealt with is, in the past, you've probably been told that your ambulances were taken to other counties, or you're having to get an ambulance from another county for coverage. So what I want to commit to you is we've stopped servicing nursing homes outside of Magoffin County with Magoffin County trucks. We used to take care of Mountain Manor because we have a license for Johnson County. We're not the primary responder there. I don't have the staff to cover that county. I'm the primary responder here. So we're going to take care of this nursing home in these counties first. We used to take all kinds of transfers out of Colby Hall Medical Center, which depleted our Magoffin County resources. The only transfers we're taking out of Colby Hall now are Magoffin County residents. If they have an emergency, if it's a Magoffin County resident and they have an emergency and they need to go to another hospital, I'm going to use Magoffin County crews to service those people. If it's a Magoffin County patient coming back to Sayersville Health Care, Magoffin County, we're going to bring those patients back. But we're not going to act as their primary responder for transfers moving forward until we can develop our staff back. I don't want to blame it all on staffing. Some of it's communication. It's just an absolute lack of communication, and I want to come in and own that. I didn't come to meet with the judge. I didn't come to meet with the fiscal court when we made our transition. The transition hit like a tornado, and sometimes after a tornado, we have to pick up some pieces and rebuild, and that's what we've been doing. What are we doing to, you don't want to just hear what the problems are. What are we doing to correct it? The first thing that we're going to do is we started hiring incentives, and we realized there's not people out there that we can find to hire. We started begging and scraping and screaming for people. So we developed an EMT Academy. I'm really excited to tell you on Saturday that EMT Academy passed the first portion of their national skills exam. We had a 100% pass rate. 6 of those students from that class are coming to Magoffin County to work as soon as they get their credentials. We've got one more testing process to go, and then they'll certify through the state, and we'll put them to work. We've already hired those people. They've already been background checked. They've already been drug tested. It's just a matter of getting that credential in their hands when they pass their test. They've been here working on the trucks already as students, so they're familiar with our processes. It's going to be an easy bridge to put them on the truck. We started some hiring incentives, some recruiting incentives. I've got sign-on bonuses. I have student loan forgiveness, anything that we can do to get people in. Confirmed 3, maybe 4 folks will be taking their physical agility test here in Magoffin County on Friday. Once the physical agility test is done, then we send them for a drug test, and they're coming to work for us. We'll put them on orientation. That's 3 EMTs and 1 paramedic. Just today, while I was in Magoffin County, I got another phone call from a paramedic that I've been trying to recruit. And he says, hey, I think I'm ready to come. And I said, hey, I think I'm ready for you to come. So we've got more people. The trickle out effect seems to be over, and the trickle in effect has come back. Other than that, something we've noticed is we have defined a good expectation of our crews, of exactly what we want them to do, and how we want them to respond, and where we want them to respond from. And Scott's defined some deficiencies. He needs some information that he wasn't getting. I'm happy to say that when I called you today, that's turning around. You're finding where the crews are. But our big scary situation is when we have a level 0 situation. We don't have trucks to respond. That can happen to anybody. Lexington Fire Department can go to a level 0 response because you can't predict 911. The thing that you have to have is a plan when you're at level 0. Scott's asked us to notify when we go to level 0 to let him know, and our crews have started doing that. It's not to the level we want it yet. But the most important thing he told me today is it's been a couple of weeks since you've had a level 0 situation. So we're keeping better coverage. It's working better. We're more strategically planning our non-emergency rooms. 911 calls are always going to take priority for us, always. But we have dialysis patients, we have discharges, we have doctor's appointments, we have wound cares that want to go too, and we understand some of those folks are frustrated too. Right behind our 911 calls, our dialysis patients are getting priority. We had 3 dialysis patients in Magoffin County that went in before 6 o'clock in the morning. It's kind of setting us up to fail. When you're going to tie 3 trucks up for a non-emergency room before 6 a.m., let's spread those out. So we've started working with the dialysis centers. We're spreading those times out. We've changed them so that we're not tying trucks up all at the same time. The other side of that is more strategically planning our doctor's appointments. Rather than whoever answers the phone schedules a doctor's appointment, now we have one person that's doing that. She's looking at the book. She's working with the nursing home. She's working with the folks at home who have to travel by ambulance and say, this is not a good time slot. People would rather hear that 2 weeks before their appointment than they would the day of their appointment. That, hey, we can't come through, we're busy that day. So we're trying to lock in time schedules so that when we commit to being there, we can commit to being there. Of course, staffing is certainly going to help that too when we get these new people in here and get them to work. We went through some changes with our employees, some scheduling changes. Folks used to come in and they were working an ungodly amount of hours, and it's just not safe. So we mandated a schedule that hurt us. One of the things that we're working on now is having more flexible scheduling so that more people want to work here. As that develops, even people just getting word of, oh, you're going to have some more flexible scheduling, they're more interested in coming to work for us. We talked this morning about something we've incentivized our volunteer firemen, because we went out to the fire departments in some of our counties and said, how can you help us with first response? And they tell us they have the same problem we do. They don't have enough people. During the day, your volunteer firefighters are at work. They're working, providing for their family. At night, they got to rest so they can work tomorrow. So they're not always available to make 911 calls. So we directed, through our HR department, any of our volunteer firefighters that work for us, if they serve a volunteer fire department in our community, we're going to pay them an additional $1,200 a year. That's $100 a month to serve their volunteer fire department. So hopefully our volunteer fire department's rosters will increase. And that will help us have some first response. When we have a situation we may not be able to respond to, or, maybe lifting assistance that we need. It may be a rescue we need. And that crosses over to the rescue squad too. If they're working on the rescue squad, we're going to pay them that same $1,200 because that's volunteers and we want to support our volunteers. Other things that we're doing, I'm in the process of planning a huge hiring event. Not just an advertisement in a newspaper, but we're going to target market Facebook. We're going to target market anybody in the state that has a EMS credential, whether it be paramedic or EMT, and have a hiring event here in Magoffin County, one in Floyd County, and one in Pike County before the end of the year, where we're going to advertise our benefits. There's a $5,000 sign-on bonus for paramedics. There's a $2,500 referral bonus for my employees who bring me employees that don't work for us. Any paramedic that has a student loan attached to their paramedic license, we're going to reimburse 100% of that student loan if they'll come to work for us. We need paramedics. Closest paramedic programs we know, we're trying to start one in Hazard. There's one at Eastern. I've got 3 employees right now that are driving to Huntington, West Virginia 3 days a week to take a paramedic course. Because that's the closest one we can find. We're paid for that course. That hopefully keeps people in our market. those are things that, they're not quick fixes. They're absolutely not quick fixes. It takes a while. Normally it takes an EMT 6 months to get through the program. We've done an accelerated program 5 days a week. We turn that program out in 12 weeks. We're going to put another one on as soon as this one's over. Those aren't easy answers. They're certainly not the fix to where's my ambulance at right now. Where your ambulance at right now is we're focusing all of the resources that we can on the counties that we're serving, nowhere else. Sometimes we're making our hospitals mad at us because they can't get the transfers that they want out in time. But 911 coverage is always going to take priority to that. Your emergency is our most important mission. Everything else is going to come behind that. But the communication tool is where we want to be right now. We want to communicate with you. We want to tell you what we've done. Scott sent us some numbers today. We compared them to our numbers. We have some run responses that are over 30 minutes. That's not okay. So today we started planning from in Magoffin County, where's my furthest response? If we're at the station right there on East Mountain Parkway, where's my furthest response? And it's all the way out at the Floyd Magoffin line in probably the Garrett community. 30 minutes, as hard as we can go. If you go the other end toward Morgan, the Morgan County line, 15, 20 minutes from Magoffin County. So we want to better look at strategically placing people. When we went to level 0, if we had a truck in Floyd County that could come over and cover, we parked them on the county line. That's not adequate coverage. That wasn't a best practice. Now if we're having to send a truck from another county to cover, they're going to come to the station. They're going to come to the central point of the county and wait. There's been some miscommunication about what our dispatchers are saying and how it's perceived. One of the calls we reviewed today, in the CAT data, it says there's a medic coming from Wesley County. That is the most far-fetched thing to adequate 911 service that I could ever imagine. What the actual true story is we had a medic that was extra in another county and we had reallocated him to Magoffin County. And he was coming here, he wasn't here yet. So inappropriately, they said we're waiting for the medic to come from Wesley County before we can take this run. We've got another 911 call before that. We were at level 0. We had to have Paintsville City respond. I'm thankful that we have those mutual aid agreements. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't ever want Paintsville City coming to Satterfield to service a 911 call. And this is my backyard. That's our business. That's where we should be. But I'm thankful that we have those mutual aid agreements so that they can help us. Sometimes we have to help them from Floyd County. We have to send them a truck when they're at level 0. Even Lexington Fire Department, our AMR teams in Lexington have to help them sometimes. That doesn't fix the problem. What fixes the problem is increasing our staff, improving our communication. I plan to be in this physical courtroom every time you all have a meeting or have a representative discussing issues that you have. We're going to take our failures on the chin and hopefully we can celebrate our successes together. Communication heals all wounds. If I'm being held accountable for what we're doing, then you're going to get good and true information and an absolute drive from my team. We've worked all day today on what solutions can we find. More focused today than we've ever been about what are we doing right, what are we doing wrong, what's working and what's not. And servicing this county is just as important as servicing Pike County. It's just as important as servicing Floyd County. I live in Letcher County. I get frustrated because the county that I live in doesn't have ALS service where I'm at. I'm not going to take your paramedic away to service another county and drop you to a BLS coverage. Those are practices of the past that lifeguards never supported, and we're not going to support now. I'm going to hush and let you all have an opportunity to ask me what you want to ask me. If I don't have an answer for you, I will get that answer for you. I'll commit a team of people to bring you what you need. We're replacing equipment every day. We've got a brand new ambulance outside that is committed to Magoffin County. There's another one on the way. They have to go through an inspection process. We've replaced our cardiac monitors with state-of-the-art cardiac monitors, updated a lot of our equipment. The station, when we first got into town, they were still in that double wide there. Now they're in a state-of-the-art station that has everything that they need to service you. So again, I'm gonna hush. I'll open myself up to any questions or concerns that you want to bring to us, and like I said, if I don't have an answer, I'll get you an answer.
Well, I was gonna suggest the fire departments, the volunteer fire departments and rescue squad, that you cover that. I appreciate you doing that, and I appreciate you coming and sharing with us. It sounds like to me you cover that all bases.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, appreciate it. I mean, you speak good words. If you'll follow up them words.
Well, the words are only as good as the actions of
That's right, the action.
So,
Not much you could ask, because you answered every question pretty well today. So, we appreciate you.
and, you know, we're not just leaving our appeal here. We're taking our appeal all the way up to the folks that govern us, which is the EMS board of directors. We discussed that this morning. They don't want to recognize how bad the shortage is. So, we asked the judge to be part of an organization. There's a certain group of county judge executives that are kind of lobbying for the board of EMS to release some of the restrictions that they have on who can operate on an ambulance. And that's all very in a premature area. But, you know, the state of Alabama they have such a staffing shortage, they just released who can operate an ambulance. And we're going to have those things here, because this staffing shortage is it's not an AMR thing. If you Google tonight EMS staffing shortage, I'm sure that all 50 states are going to have an article about who's short today. That's because nobody's entering their career field. We have kind of a new thing that we're going to work on, is to become the employer of choice. There's folks that are working for EMS agencies and other places that we want them to come and work for us. Now, I don't want to hurt anybody else's service, but I want to make sure ours has all the people we need to service our communities appropriately. So we're going to do what it takes to become that employer of choice.
This is happened to me just the other day. I had a nephew that had a seizure. He was about 18 months old.
Okay.
And she just put him in the car and took off to the hospital, you know, and just,
So,
you know, in a situation like that.
you know, I just got cold chills. My boss tells a story similar to this, but I really understand that, because I just got back from a trip. I've been in Florida for a week, and my mother-in-law called me and told me my son wasn't breathing. And I had to drive from where I was at to the hospital, and the ambulance had to come get him. Well, thankfully, when we got there, he was okay. But I've never felt more handicapped in my life, having to wait for an ambulance or having to wait to know that he was okay. So, not only do we bring professionalism to situations like that, we bring humility and compassion to it. I understand how long those minutes are when you're the one waiting. I never want anybody to wonder whether or not the right thing to do is to call 911 or to go on my own. You having that thought tells me we failed. I want to change that. I want every citizen in this county to know the right thing to do is dial 911, because we're going to be there.
It's really dangerous for someone to take someone sick to a hospital, because they drive fast, they drive dangerously, trying to hurry, and
When you inject emotion into a scary situation, you often get a bad outcome.
yeah, it's just everything. Thank God everything's okay though.
But again, you know, we're here to serve. AMR Lifeguard did not buy the existing service to come in and pay. Our full intent is to improve. It's not an overnight process. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with emergencies and human life, you don't have a lot of time to correct the situation, and it's taken us longer than we should. But I give you a full team's commitment all the way up to my regional director, who drove in tonight from Corbin, Kentucky, just to hear what we're doing and see what we're saying. And I promise you, she's going to hold me to it. So whatever we can do, whatever concerns you have, the judge has my phone number. Before we leave here tonight, I want to make sure everybody on the fiscal court has my cell phone number. When somebody calls you and says, I got a problem, you may not know how to fix that, but I want you to say, I know a guy who can. And we'll do that.
And you addressed pretty much everything you talked about is the things that I brought up as concerns. But as the judge executive of Magoffin County, I struggle with the fact that here we are since April. I mean, that's many months, that's many emergencies. And as we discussed, I've got roads that need worked on, I've got tiles that need worked on. And if I get to them next week or the week after, that's not acceptable, but it was okay because there's no loss of life or nobody has a potential for that. We're talking about emergency services, and I think, as I explained to y'all, and I told y'all, I mean, I think you will, and you and the other guy will admit or will confirm, I've had some harsh words for y'all in private, and I don't really want. I'm not going to do that in public because I don't believe in that. But make no mistake about it, Magoffin County will not stand by and wait another 6 months for this to be corrected. I hope that everything that you said here, comes to light. But now, if it don't, I'm not going to stand idly by. That will not happen. And as I told you all, I don't want to get into the ambulance business. I have no desire to do that. I got enough on my plate as it is. But make no mistake about it, if that's what it takes to protect the citizens of Magoffin County, that's what we're going to do. And I hope that everything that you said comes true. I expect that you will be here every month, and that there is significant progress when you come here in December. Because this is totally unacceptable. I'm glad to see that there's not going to be sitting on the county line anymore. That's something that's frustrated me for years. Traveling back and forth to 10, and seeing an ambulance sitting on the county line. What's that 6 more miles going to do? Why not come that 6 more miles? And I do know in our southern end of the county, it's a long trip from Sayersville. But you have Floyd County too, so strategically, needs to be somebody, that area probably needs to be served from up maybe a Floyd County that's a little closer. But I'm very hopeful, and I'm pleased that after we talked this morning, I can tell that you all went back and had a lot of discussions on it because you've addressed most of my concerns. And then we talked about that, the shape of the ambulances that are here.
Yes.
I don't like that you see new ambulances in other counties, and we're sitting out here with 300,000 and 500,000 mile ambulances sitting there. I understand we're going to have 2 new ones now.
Yes. So I've got one that's going to be waiting inspection. The good news is I got news today. So at the end of the year, ambulance production slows down. Our ambulance manufacturers are going to make X number of ambulances a year, and then we go in, the company our side, we go in and try to grab all of them that we can. So they have to produce a certain number for us. In reallocating some trucks, and I'll tell you that, I mean, no insult to any service whatsoever. I'm not an insulting person. But the ambulances that were in the fleet, that were inherited, that were being repaired and repaired and repaired, you can only fix a truck that has 500,000 miles on it so many times. We're not talking about a Kenworth that can go 5 million miles. We're talking about an ambulance that we put somebody in. So I do know that I'm working on an allocation of 7 more new ambulances that are supposed to come to this area before the end of the year. Being a finance guy, you know what I'm going to have to go through to get those to roll in here. So we're working on that. But what we have done is we're looking at other means too. To tell you how serious the ambulance situation is, we can't buy them fast enough, so AMR decided that they would build their own shop in Louisville, Texas. We're building our own ambulances now. Give us another opportunity to get them another way. I had one come in here that was not remanufactured, but refurbed by our refurb shop, and it looks like a new ambulance. My fleet manager called me yesterday and said, hey, I got 2 more trucks that are coming to you out of California. They're in Akron, Ohio now. We're going to rebrand them and retitle them in Akron. Believe it or not, it's almost impossible to transfer a title from California to Kentucky. So they're going to transfer them to Ohio, and then allow me to transfer them from Ohio to Kentucky, which is a very easy process. So there's a lot of moving parts to what we're doing right now, a whole lot of them. I'm not going to come and stand in this physical courtroom and lie to you because I believe I'm only as good as my word. It doesn't matter who shows up today to tell you something. The guy that comes back and delivers is the guy you're going to trust.
And that's where, as judge, that I will be holding you accountable, and we've had that discussion too. And like I said, the conversations have been good. Like I said, I've expressed my concerns, and we've got to see where we stand next month. But I can guarantee you that if this time next week we're having these same kind of issues, you're going to be hearing from me.
Sure. And I don't want to ever walk in here with my head held down low.
And so, any other questions or comments? All right.
Thank you all for allowing us to be here. Thank you.
All right. right, anybody else need to speak before, or want the floor to speak to the court? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Motion made, seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye, those opposed, no. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your attention.